password for the Wi-Fi here by any
I
chance,
don't
do you?
actually know.
No, I think because I do have it, but it's password connected, locked, whatever.
Let's see. See if I got it. No, I don't. Let's try this one. No, it's not that. Anyway, hopefully you won't get so bored that you need to go surfing at night.
No, indeed, yeah. I just always have to be connected. It's just maddening, but
Have you you haven't got it through your phone, is it?
No, not automatically. I have to pay for it. So I just do it for the Wi-Fi around.
I know, yeah.
Just habituated to it. That's all,
I know, I'd be the same. And it actually adds up. Like my bills, they're pretty big because I'm gonna have to do something because I move plan or something.
Yeah, and we're all just constantly surfing. We can't help it.
And then it's just crazy to be spending dead money like that. Like another big bill, and I was going no way.
Just can't get off the web. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, ever do a digital detox or anything?
Of the web?
On your phone, like.
No. Well, I'm not on the phone that much, but I'm on, at home. Yeah. No, I've no intention of detoxing. I don't need to detox.
No. It can be handy with the smartphone sometimes. It's all there on your phone, and you get away from reaching for it all the time.
I don't even have a smartphone. I still have the old one.
Do you?
Yeah, but I have a tablet.
That's better, you see, because at least you're using the tablet at certain time and you do all your stuff.
Yeah.
But the problem with smartphone is just always there. Like you can check anything whenever you want.
Yeah. I'm not on Facebook either, or Twitter or any of that twittering nonsense.
Twitter, yeah. I'm not on Twitter either. I'm not drawn to do Twitter at all. Everyone seems to be on Twitter now.
Yeah.
I don't like Twitter really. I have a Facebook thing, but that's about it. Social media is a bit,
Well, you can get on Facebook. Like I can get on your Facebook, even though I'm not on Facebook, because your Facebook is open.
You can do the open ones, yeah.
Yeah. So I can. That's enough as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah. No. So anyway, this is it. Still this.
This is it.
So. There's only what seems to be happening or appearing to happen. So now there's a hum of something, a real light, a clock ticking, feelings might happen, thoughts happen, seeing happens, whatever's arising is already it. But the sense that it's not it comes from the sense that I'm seeing, I'm hearing the clock tick, I'm hearing the buzz of the light, I'm sitting in the seat. And this sense of being a me is just very, it's just totally taken for granted. And we indoctrined into it and grow up. This sense of a me is absolutely real. So I'm a separate me, and I move through the world, and I make choices, and I'm moving in time. There's past, there's present, there's future, and things that happen in my life are as a result of what I've done and the work I've put in, and so on and so forth. This is the way that life is perceived. This is the story, and all the time that is the case. And you feel like a me. There's a yearning for something else, and the yearning is for wholeness or completeness, because you feel like there's a small me here and a big world out there, and there's this yearning. There's a sense of dissatisfaction with that, To what degree varies, but there's a sense it's very unsatisfactory perception. So people who are searching for in the world from this perspective are looking to fill that void, to fill that sense of loss, of having lost everything. Whether it's through money or spirituality or success or power or blah blah blah, whatever it is, it's all that same yearning. And then what's being suggested here is that actually what that yearning is about is not about gaining something in your life that will make you complete. It's the sense that there is no separate you. So there is only everything. There is only boundlessness. And this sense of being a separate you is artificial. It's only an appearance. And that's what's being talked about. And so what happens is it's shared, and we talk about it, and there's no right or wrong here. You can't really say anything that's silly, or if it's there to be said or it's there to be asked, then it's just just say it. And through discussing it, it can start to become quite apparent that really held energy of being a me, it's not real. It can start to become quite obvious that this thing of a solid me that's in here, bound by the skin and up maybe behind the eyes, or that you're in there, that's not real. But that's not a goal of this communication. There's no goal for ye to be not separate anymore, because from this perception there is no separation whatsoever. There's just energy raining on the roof, energy clicking on the clock, energy peopling, and that's the perception. That's the way it is. There would have been a sense of feeling like a separate person here, and when that appeared to fall away, it was seen it was never really there. So this is the paradox of what's being shared. It's not that there's a separate me that then fell away, because when it appears to not be there, it's very clear that it was never really there. So we're not even talking about something that could happen to you, because it's not going to happen to you because you're not there from this perception. And what's being suggested then is really that it's totally known already by the apparent individual, because what it is childlike wonder at the world, that newness in everything, that everything new. And as we grew up, we became more indoctrined into this me and the world, and we became more, everything then started to become stale eventually, because it's Monday again, I'm driving in my car and I'm going to work, and everything, this sense of repetition and everything, there's a staleness to everything, whereas actually the way life actually is, there's no staleness whatsoever, because everything is and isn't. It's always new. Everything is always new. But to see that is not for you to see that. It involves a loss and not a gain. But the wisdom we have or the perception we have as a person is that I'm going to, I can get something to see what's being suggested here or whatever. But it's actually not to do with getting anything. It's to do with a loss.
So when we were up to the age of 2, we were, as you say, just childlike wonder, so we had it then.
Yeah.
And then because
we
people
were
start putting stuff onto us, calling us a name.
Well, it's what appears to happen. Like, it's not that anyone has done it to us. Probably up to earlier than 2, I'd say 1-ish, definitely, and then any time then between. There's no rules for it, but any time then between maybe 1 and 2. Definitely, and even earlier than that as well, there can be this energetically, the sense of the me comes into the child, but it's not very contracted. It's still quite energetically quite wild compared to what we would feel as adults. As adults, we very much feel this, and as teens, it gets a very contracted sense. So it's not quite. There's much more of a spontaneity to it, but as a child, then it is that childlike wonder that's exactly what's being suggested here, is that is always this because that has never actually been lost. You've been lost looking for it. It has never. We feel as though we've lost something as we become adults, and what is it that we can get back? It's not that we've lost anything, it's that we've, on top of it, we've this conditioned, energetic, contracted experience of being separate.
But that never goes, does it?
Oh, well, it does, yeah, because it goes all the time. I mean, it's not here, but it was never here to begin with. It's only an appearance. That's the tricky thing about it.
Right.
So from when it goes, it's very obvious. It's not that when it appears to go, it's not that, oh, I'm separate, I'm no longer separate here, but you're separate and you're separate and this. It's just there's no separation. Everything is just boundless energy. That's all there is. It's only when someone speaks and says, oh, well, I still feel like a person, and it's, well, okay, fair enough, that's what appears to be happening there then. But there is no body, there's just nobody. There's just energy, just aliveness.
Is there a perceiver of that?
No perceiver of it, no. There's nobody here who's a perceiver of, there's just what appears to be happening. Which is all that's there also, but there's overlaying that is this veil that feels absolutely real of a me that I'm perceiving, and that I'm sitting in the chair, that I'm listening to what's being said, me all the time. There is this sense. So it's, when this is being shared, there's no this is totally agendaless, and there's nobody addressing any individual, because actually the individual is just an energy that can do nothing but be an individual. That's all it does. It's the energy of being a separate me. It's a closed loop. And so when it's being shared, I'm not addressing an individual. And it's really an energetic resonance. What you are resonates with it. It's not even what you are, that's very inadequate, but yeah. It's not it's not the individual that hears this, because the individual doesn't hear this at all. The individual can only just reject this, because it doesn't help them be an individual, because the individual is just only concerned with being an individual.
In those moments when you say you're driving, or you're painting and you're kind of lost, is that kind of what you know?
Yeah, it's a flavour of it. Yeah, I mean the individual feels constant, but the individual is an on-off thing as well. In that you could be they're just walking through the park, and then there's, oh, I'm walking through the park.
Yeah.
So this is a very ordinary suggestion, and one that we're totally already know and are familiar with. But then the mind overlays that and kicks in, and yeah. But completely, like for instance, painting or whatever it is. Some people, there can be a draw to do something that they don't. There is just that activity. Yeah. Or maybe some people refer to time. Doesn't seem time. Just disappears when I do A, B, or C, and I love it so much I get lost in it.
Yeah.
That is kind of a flavour of it. Yeah.
And even though you can be doing something and still have a kind of a running, kind of thoughts running through your head, but they're there, but you're not it's almost like there's something going on, but you're not really paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Thoughts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can. It's
like
not. It's not a
noise of thoughts.
Yeah. This is totally, completely familiar what I'm saying here. I mean, this is totally known there. But it may be that there's confusion over that and a sense of me over that. It's not known in an intellectual way, in the sense that what's being suggested is not knowable or gettable. I don't know it. Nobody knows it, because to know it would be an abstraction. It's not describable. It's not knowable, and paradoxically, it's just totally ordinary. It's just this. It doesn't need to be known, and so. When it's seen, then a very common thing is, well, it's so obvious that it was always there. Immediately, it's just this was always there. It was always this, and that's why there can often be a lot of laughter. It was always just what I'd looked for all these years, apparent years, had never left me. It was always there, but I was lost looking for this. you know. So.
What's the situation then at, say, night time when you're sleeping and you're unconscious?
There's nobody. Yeah, there is nobody in sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So in sleep, there is just body, dreams, whatever, and then when the body wakes up, it appears that the individual kicks in quite quickly. Maybe
the situation with deep dreamless sleep.
Yeah, REM. There's nobody there. Yeah, there's nobody there in REM.
So what is there?
Just what is, which is just what is. There's just breathing and body, and that's all there is
there
anyway.
Even that, because you're not aware of that.
There's no awareness. Is only is only an aspect of the individual.
Mm-hmm. Awareness of, yeah.
Awareness of other.
Yeah. So there's off.
So in actuality, we keep coming back to awareness and awareness and awareness, and awareness is actually irrelevant. It's nothing to do with it. It's just a function of the individual. Awareness of chair. I am separate to the chair. I'm aware of the chair over there. There's 2 meters between me and the chair. It'd take 1 second to get to. Do you know what I mean? These are all the things that appear to come out of the individual. And in fact, awareness is just completely useless. It's just an aspect of being an individual. So when the apparent individual appears to fall away, awareness is also, there's no awareness anymore. There's no one who is aware of other. There's just what is.
Well, I mean, let me ask the question differently then. What is the difference between your, in inverted commas, experience of this now versus your in inverted commas, experience of deep, dreamless sleep?
Oh, well, I don't experience either. I don't have an experience of this now.
Okay,
There is
not
just
your experience, and I'm not really concerned with the ownership, but the experience itself.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no one here who feels like they're sitting on the chair or talking. There's just talking. There's just sitting on the chair, sensations, rising sounds, and I don't know. Body.
No, that's not there either. Because you're unconscious.
Nothing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's the difference?
I can't answer your question. I mean, there's just from this perception, there's just sleep, and there's no, and then in this waking experience, there's just whatever appears to be. So
it switches on and off like that. If you go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night and you wake up at 7, that's a genuine gap.
Yeah, but you see, from this perception, there is only whatever appears. It just is and isn't, and. Even going to sleep at 9 o'clock and then waking up at 2 and then going back to sleep and all that, that's all just becomes obviously a story. That's obviously a story. So everything is a story. Meeting people at 2 o'clock in a place, opening the building, making the coffee, it's all a story. That's all it is. So if there was someone here, it would feel like there's somebody who has made arrangements, who jumps in the car, who drives the car, who opens the door, who makes the coffee, blah, blah, blah. The sense of doership, and there's no sense of doership. There's just, that's what appears to be happening. And there's nothing actually happening. That's one of the most frustrating things for people, is that they feel that there's something happening. They live in a world where they're separate to the world, they're moving through the world, and things are happening to them. That's the way it is. And in actuality, this is nothing appearing to happen, because this is no thing. It's energy appearing as form. It's the formless as form, and which is it's only in when there's a separate person that there's experiences and things happening in a time-space continuum.
Well,
so the individual won't understand that. Is there time? No, only an appearance of time, just as there's an appearance of the chair. So but the person feels that there's time, that time is a thing and it's real.
Is that's why nothing's happened, because there's no time for it to happen in?
Well, it's just one aspect of it, yeah. I mean, that there is no body in it for it to happen too, because there's no separation. So when there's separation, there's objects to then relate to each other in a story, which in that story, time and space is an aspect of it. So that's why there's something appearing to happen. And then when the me falls away or appears to fall away, it can be quite obvious there's nothing happening. It may or may not be. It doesn't have to be, but it's just that there's just this.
It always struck me as kind of odd because different people that I've heard, like yourself or read, they're kind of insistent that there is no time, but they're kind of also insistent that there is space. They like space, at least as a metaphor, but there's no time.
Well, I would never
Spaciousness
say
and
that.
space.
No, I mean, from here there's no time or space, only the appearance of time and space. So time and space are just two sides. They're a continuum, two sides of the same thing. So if there's no time, there's no space. So this is boundlessness. There's no. It's infinite and it's eternal. So infinite isn't a very, very, very big place. It means there is no space. It's not very, very big at all. Like the mind can't get anywhere with this at all, because if the mind appears to move in that time and space, this is the closest the mind could come to infinity is that it's really, really, really big.
Yeah.
It's not really, really big. It's infinity. And the same with eternity. The closest the mind could come is that it's a really long time, but it's not a really long time. It's no time.
Yeah.
So this is the when there's a sense of being a person, then there's all sorts of communications to the person of what it is they're looking for. That they're looking for, what you're looking for is infinite. What you're looking for is eternal. And there's ways to meditate, to ready yourself to see that there is eternity. It's absolute nonsense, because how can you use time to see there's no time? And that's the catch. Everything that the individual, mostly 99% of what's directed at the individual is a prescription to do something. So the person, it just feeds that sense of being a person. Give me something to do, and then I will no longer be separate. It's very, very seductive. That's what all the religions are. It's a story. But that's also a story. So when someone is held up as being enlightened, that there's a belief that person is enlightened, and there's an energy around that becomes they're a student and I'm a teacher, and it's absolute story. There is nobody who's enlightened. It's total bullshit. But they go along that it is real in the story, so it feels real in the story, so nobody is enlightened. So then it's no, but they are enlightened. Or are they? Okay, fair enough. If you think they're enlightened, So that's the game. That's the story. There's no such thing as enlightenment. There's nobody who, like, from this perception, there's no authority. There's no nobody who's in any kind of state that you're not in. Or it's not even a state, but there's nobody. There is only aliveness, and everyone is already that. So all of these messages that tell you to do something and you'll get to where I am is just keeping you it's just in that loop of individualism, and that's why they're attractive to the person, because the individual knows I'm being fed here, really. My sense of being a person is being fed, so there's an energy to it. So the energy to it then would be if someone's given a big talk about mindful awareness, and the individual appears to go and appears to be so inspired by it, then that's what appears to be happening. But all it is that sense of individualism seems to be full up for a period of time, and then it all kind of comes down, and then they go to the next person or whatever. And that's just what appears to happen. There's nothing right or wrong with it. And these are the very popular messages, because it keeps the individual going. Whereas a clear message...
if you believe you're a person, how much more kind of belief can you believe if you already think you're a person?
Because you're not a person. You're not a person. It's constantly under threat. So the sense of being an individual is constantly being fed. Constantly.
But it is anyway, even if there's any kind of amount of suffering going on in any kind of way.
Well, it's being fed as it's being fed. Yeah, it's just it doesn't matter. And this is all irrelevant. There's no right or wrong. So if someone appears to be going to hear someone talk about mindful awareness, and that's the way they appear to be getting fed, and another person is making €1 million at something else. It's the same thing happening in a different way, and it's not right or wrong. It's all an appearance anyway.
Yeah.
So when you talk like this, sometimes people, they kind of get, oh, you're a little bit offended or something, that you're knocking something, or you're in some way saying that it's wrong to search, or it's just what appears to be happening. That's all.
Yeah.
But there's no, that sense of being an individual is just completely untouchable by anything. There's nothing that appears to affect it. So there's no agenda here that someone could come here, appear to come here, engage in this, and then be less of an individual. That's not something that's, because the sense of being an individual is just, it's only an appearance.
But as a child, conditioning kind of was, was put off. Well, we gained conditioning, so we started off, and then all of a sudden we kind of get these layers of conditioning until we become a really fully blown adult. So can it not work kind of the other way as well, where you start trying to take away those layers, wind it back down, where you basically.
Sorry,
I know that's part of the story. No. I know that would be part of the story, but as a child, you gain all these beliefs, which just confounds the whole. Just seem to compact the whole belief that I am this person.
Yeah.
So within the story, then, to try and take those beliefs away, to strip them back, so you're kind of going back. Which is kind of, and it's always lightening the load of the belief.
It is what you're saying is absolutely logical.
Within the story, I know.
Exactly,
but within the story,
that seems like the most logical thing. That if this sense of being an individual is, from that perception, it's not as a result of anything, and it only appears to happen. So if from the person's point of view, it's as a result of this conditioning, and it builds up and it builds up, but that's also a story.
Yeah.
But if I see what you're saying, that if that's the way it was, then it's reversible. Reverse engineer it the other way completely. But the difficulty about what's being looked for is that it's not logical, because logic is the individual. Linear logic comes from the order of the individual. What's being looked for is not logical or linear or anything. It's just this. This is not logical or linear, and it's not even. There is no individual anyway. It's only an appearance. So there's no even real individual to work on. And once the apparent individual feels they can work on the individual to not be an individual, then you've just got a loop of just the individual appearing to work on itself, and it's just feeding the individual. So that's the difficulty with it. But from a logical point of view, that makes absolute sense, what you just said. That would be totally it. And that's the world we're living in, is that you feel like an individual, so do any array of things, like go outside your comfort zone, always live on the edge of your comfort zone. That's where life starts. I'm just giving you one example, but whatever it is, and that's totally logical as well. Yeah, and that is logical too, though. And some people say, well, that's the way I live, and I like that. And well, that's great. Happy days. That's what appears to be happening for you then. But the crazy thing is that what's looked for is just nothing to do with what you think you're looking for. It's nothing to do with you. There is no you. See, we're back to the starting point. The apparent individual. It's only an appearance. So once you treat it like a real thing and start to try and get rid of it, all you're doing is reinforcing it.
Still, again, it's not the person that's the doer, but whatever the doer is, that can be what it's doing in order to bring about what it wants to bring about.
Yeah, but there is no doer from this perspective. There's just energy. That's all there is.
That's the doer I'm referring to.
But then all that's going back in another doer. It's just going back. There is no. It's just there is energy. That's all there is. It's just energy. There's nobody in anything.
Well, I'm not saying there is, but I'm just doer or energy. But that's what the energy is doing to bring it. Ultimately, it could bring about.
Yeah, but nothing's being brought about though. Again, nothing's being brought about. Things are only appearing to happen in the story.
Well, that's
like everything just is and isn't. This is just is and isn't. Is and isn't. This is everything and nothing. So, in the sense that we think about life We think that there's life, and then we think there's death,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're two separate things. And the concept here of death used to be kind of this big black blobby
Mm-hmm.
thing called death, and it's stunning because there is no thing called life and death. This is life and death because this is everything and nothing. The form and the formless are one. There is only one. This is it. And once that is seen, it's stunning because everything is new. Okay? Everything is new. Everything is new. That's new, and that's new, and that's new, and that's new, and that's never happened before. Nothing has ever happened before because everything is and isn't. But that's a mystery. The mind can't understand that, and to see that actually is for the false center of me to be no more. So you don't want what's looked for. The individual doesn't want what's looked for because if what's looked for involves the end of me, that's the paradox.
Well, but
We're of an apparent me.
Yeah.
Well, when I say you, I mean the individual. The individual absolutely wants nothing to do with this. Nothing whatsoever to do with it. Because the individual is very happy being an individual.
Even if the individual is suffering.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's happy or sad or suffering. Or not. It's just a narrative. Some people are very, very happy in their misery. I'm sure you've met a few of them. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who are just... That's their narrative. That's their story is being fucking miserable. And no matter what appears to be done to trying, they don't want to shift out of that. They don't want to shift out of it because that's their energy of being an individual is of a misery and unhappiness. Or the other flip side of that is someone who's constantly happy. How are you? I'm brilliant. I'm always brilliant. Are you? No, I'm never sad. Never sad. I'm never sad. Not a day. Okay, that's fucking weird. Okay, fair enough. That's your narrative then. And there's nothing right or wrong with any of them.
Well, that's
just
not
the story.
The
I know. I'm just giving examples.
Well,
I mean, there's as many groups as.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about those self-deluded people, but rather people who are miserable and are miserable being miserable.
Yeah. There's every type.
So
There's any variety.
The defense that you're talking about. Because I'm talking about someone who's miserable and is miserable being miserable. So they're not defending. Oh, I'm very happy when there's no self-delusion like that.
Yeah. I mean, people's story is as unique as everyone's story is completely and utterly unique. So, their story is their story, end of story. End of story. That's it.
But the bigger story at the moment seems to be that a lot of people are waking up.
That's also a story. Yeah,
I know, but within the big story at the moment is lots of people.
It's a complete story. That nobody wakes up. Nobody wakes up. There's no enlightened people. There's nobody. Like when we greeted. Apparently half an hour ago or whatever, and we said, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And I said, and then it was, "Oh, I'm still not woke," and to me that's a story because nobody wakes up. You see, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it intellectually. Which is almost more frustrating.
Well, it doesn't matter. You see, nothing is required. So, what's being discussed is. What's been discussed is not to do with any understanding whatsoever. So it's just that it's actually an energetic resonance.
What
really.
does that mean?
Just an energy. It doesn't mean anything. For the individual, there's meaning. They live in a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Everything means something.
But you said it. What does it mean?
It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Nothing means anything. This doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning comes from the apparent individual.
What was the purpose of the communication?
There's no purpose
then?
at all. There's no purpose to anything.
So I mean,
purpose, meaning, significance, all comes from the story of the apparent individual.
But I mean, do you not even find that frustrating yourself?
Not at all. There's nothing finds anything frustrating.
You're saying that sentence and it's equivalent to repeating the word jelly beans over and over for 4 hours?
For that character, what was just said there is equivalent to repeating the word jelly beans over and over.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is. So what would be the frustration? Mm-hmm. There's an absolute wow with this message. It's fucking amazing. It's stunning. There's no agenda whatsoever anywhere because all that's perceived is aliveness, and then there's a sharing of it, and there can be no agenda for it to be seen or not seen because whatever appears is it. So when the apparent individual says, that's like what you're saying there is just like saying jelly bean for 5 hours, just constantly. You're just saying jelly bean, jelly bean, jelly bean. Okay, that's what appears to be happening. or the person says, wow, this is stunning what you're saying. That's what appears to be happening.
I
So
wasn't
there's no
actually saying
agenda.
that.
There's no agenda to.
I wasn't actually saying that. I was saying, never mind. I wasn't actually saying that.
Okay.
I think what you just iterated was not what I was trying to communicate,
Okay.
but it doesn't matter, obviously. But then what I was curious about is that everything is energy, and then you're saying also that the concern here, however you want to describe it, is an energetic resonance. In the whole field of energy, what's that resonance?
This is totally indescribable, and the words that are coming here are trying to point towards something that can't be described. What's been suggested is that what's looked for is not to do with an intellectual understanding and knowing, which in the world of the individual, everything is to do with knowing and understanding. Everything. Because the individual lives in a loop of its own knowing. And what's been said is that it's an energetic resonance. It's nothing to do with understanding. So someone can understand this completely, totally and utterly. They could write a complete thesis on it, and it makes no difference whatsoever, because you have somebody who understands they're not there. The energy is that this is the sense of being an individual is a contracted energy. Apparently it's an appearance, but it's experienced like a contracted me and a world outside me that is cellular and seems to kind of be run almost out of the brain, but is in every cell of the body. Really, it's an energy. So when there's no individual, or when the individual appears to fall away, that's an apparent energetic shift. So when it's being heard, it's that it resonates energetically more than intellectually. It's nothing to do with any intellectual. Yeah.
But even that sounds very specific vis-a-vis the reality, which is just energy.
It's as close as this character can come to pointing towards it. So that's the terms that's being used. There's no particular. But that's what's happening there. It sounds like a purpose there.
But it does sound that way. Yeah.
Yeah, to that character, it sounds like a purpose there. So that's what's happening.
So when you say this is it, everything, so everything the one is perceiving, so you're perceiving the same world that I'm perceiving, except you don't.
No, I'm not perceiving it. That's the difference. So the same, there's the hum of the light, there's the click of the tick of the clock, and there's what's being perceived through the senses. The difference, the apparent difference, is that there's nobody here in the clock, here in the hum, seeing. There's just seeing, there's just the sound, but from this perspective there is no difference whatsoever, because what might be there is only an appearance, that there's a sense of me hearing the clock, me hearing the voice, maybe me sitting on the seat, me speaking, possibly, I don't know. That's what, there's no sense here of, there is just sitting on the seat. Apparently there's no sense of being someone in here sitting on the seat. Right. And when that appeared to fall away, it would seem that there never was a me in here. There never ever was. It's very obvious there never was. And then when this is shared, there's a kind of a resonance with it, and then it's like, there's kind of a pull towards it, and then a simultaneously rejection of it, or the extremes of that, a complete just boom with it, or else a complete rejection of it
by the characters,
by the apparent individual. Yeah. Mostly rejected, mostly either totally rejected and in anger, like when there's a bigger meeting, if you have 30-40 people, one of the predominant things is anger coming at you, pretty much like. Because there's no agenda here for there not to be anger, then that's what appears to be happening. So it's fine. It's not even fine. It's just what appears to be happening. Yeah. So, and then what's very obvious is there's that push, that pull can be very, the simultaneous kind of draw and rejection thing can be, and you usually get a few people get out of there pretty quick.
Who don't leave the room and are listening.
Still you see.
Are they still rejecting it?
Mostly, yeah, I would say, yeah. Mostly what's happening is, if you're not getting out of the room, because you're safe, get the fuck out of here, like, you know. And then what's happening is there's a sitting through it, but the safest thing for the parent individual to do is marry it up to something, like Muji or whoever, you know, any of these G guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So spiritual, it's frequently linked to, you're saying the same as bum bum bum. I'm not saying the same as bum bum bum. It's completely different. It's totally and utterly different. But they also say okay. So what is the apparent individual kind of takes what's been suggested and fits it into a conceptual framework of what sits well with that person. So you can sit through it, the whole thing, and not hear actually what's being said.
I mean, I think, like, I've listened to Muji, and I think he does, like, he would give your message, but then he also gives the softer
He doesn't. It's not my message.
Well,
but it's not my message. But
hard
Muji is absolutely 100% is completely and utterly different to what's been suggested here. In no way, shape, or form is this the same message. I can hear what you're saying, that for you the words sound the same, but when it's seen, and it's only really when there's no individual, the apparent, well, it doesn't have to be, the apparent individual can also see the difference, but it's totally and utterly different. Muji is feeding the sense of individualism. It's not right or wrong, but that's what...
Your message is very hard.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's why, you know,
it's uncompromising.
It's hard
there's no compromise. Why would there's
Yeah. So it is a very hard message. So for seekers, like the way I view it is that people like Muji, they are just being compassionate.
Well, it's life Muji.
Yeah.
There's no. I could say 1,000 times.
I
could say 1,000 times that it's what appears to be happening,
Yeah.
and the individual just seems to think that I'm being negative about Muji, and you're being. That's life Muji, but it's in the apparent wheel of the individual. It's in the story. It's feeding the story. That's all it is.
Presumably, what you're saying is Tony Parsons is saying the same thing.
I don't have any interest in persons at all. It's a completely impersonal message. The Open Secret is a very clear message, definitely. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
The Open Secret is the first. I frequently said the first time I heard a clear message was the Open Secret. Boom! That was it. Boom! YouTube actually. Boom! And I watched it again. Boom! And I watched it again. Boom! And I saw I'd never watched it before. I'd never seen it. Every time I watched the same clip, I'd never seen. It was the first time I saw it. And then it was, okay, that's it. That's actually, it involves a loss. It's not a gain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very radical message, and it's a very uncompromising message.
Yeah.
And people lump that in with all sorts of other messages, but that's what appears to be happening. There's nothing right or wrong with that.
But within that, like people, I don't know if you've ever seen Fred Davis on YouTube.
No.
Who he does wake people up. Check him out. I know you're going to say that, but he does. I mean, he himself would say he's woken up thousands of people one-on-one sessions.
And that's a story to me.
Yes, indeed.
Because I've never woken anyone up.
No,
and nobody's ever woken up, and I didn't wake up.
Yeah, but within the story, they have woken up. They have.
Oh, within the story, there's enlightened beings, and there's gurus, and there's masters, and there's teachers, and there's this. We could talk for the next year about what there is in the story.
They're no longer the person. The person.
Yeah.
The person is.
There's an energetic. There can be an energetic shift, so that the energy of the person appears to shift, but all it is then is the person. The quality of the person is shifted a little bit, and it's still a person, but it's maybe with expanded awareness or whatever that person would describe, but it's still a person. It makes no difference whatsoever. You know that? From this perception. I don't know anything. I know absolutely nothing.
So that might not be the case.
Anything that's expressed from this perception is obviously just an opinion.
So
there's no.
It might not be the case then.
But nobody knows anything. The nothing is even knowable. This is the perception here. I'm not saying it's right, because how could I say that what's been said here is right if I'm clearly saying there's no right and wrong, and there's no knowledge here?
Right.
Like there's still looking there for something that's okay. This is true and that's not true, and I mean, it's heard as it's heard.
Right, wrong, or they're kind of hazy words because they could mean. I'm using the terms in the sense of accurate and inaccurate words.
Well, same thing. If you want inaccurate and accurate. true or not true, whatever.
No, but also the term is kind of being used like appropriate and inappropriate. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
Okay.
about right, you know, what is true, what is.
But then there's
corresponding
either
to truth and
there's
also
either
not
it's either
corresponding
that's seen, what's been suggested is seen, or it's not seen, or it's rejected, or it's like, okay, well, I don't agree with that, and then that's what appears to be happening. Then there's no agenda here for. I've said it, over and over. Appeared to say it over and over. There's nobody been asked to agree with anything at all whatsoever, on any level. I mean, what would if there was a suggestion being made and there was some agenda for someone to agree with it? I mean, that's a whole different communication. What would there's nothing to even agree on, and then there would be, from this perception, there would have to be an individual who sees other individuals, which isn't the case. There's nothing but boundlessness here. There's no room even. This is just energy. It's just bound. This is everything. This is everything. It's fucking stunning. This is everything. This is all that is. It's not a room in Galway, in Ireland, in Europe, in bum 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 bum. These are all artificial boundaries. There is no boundary on anything. It's just, this is it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm okay about that Muji thing. I don't like Muji, so you know.
I don't. It's not. Yeah.
No, I know it from your perspective. Personally, I don't get it from Muji, so I don't mind that he's.
It's not about Muji. Like, it's not.
No,
I will keep saying it's totally impersonal. I have no interest really in talking about individuals, because it's just that there's two communications. The obvious one, the popular one, is in some way, shape or form seeing an individual you and showing you how to not be an individual, or how to be whole and complete. I mean, there's acres. Go into a local bookshop down there, you'll find acres and acres and acres of books on it. Go into town, you'll find talks, you'll find seminars, you'll find it's just, this is the world we live in, and we accept that we're constantly getting somewhere. We feel that we're somehow incomplete, and if we do A, B, or C, then we'll get there, and we're constantly getting there. We're sometimes fleeting arrivals, and we feel we're there, and then we're striving for something that's always around the next corner, and we're actually continually rejecting what is in favour of what might be, because that's the individual energy. The individual energy is a hopeful energy moving forward to something that's better. So when this is being suggested, it's the individual hates this. This is it. Just this. How can it be just this? This can't be it.
But it's like, this is what's happening as well. It's like...
Yeah, and that's also what appears to be happening. And there's no suggestion here that there's anything wrong with that. It's just what appears to be happening. And actually, it's not even happening. So there's no issue. Again, we're back to that. There's no issue. Of course there's no issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
If there was an issue with individualism, then it would be that this perceives individuals, which it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I keep checking this because someone said they were coming, and they were running a bit late.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that's why I was looking at that, because...
It's tricky to find it, yeah.
No, they were here the last time, so they know where it is.
Good.
I have heard it described as that this would, like, from my perspective, I'm the character in a dream. So the character within a dream, as soon as the dream finishes, I will disappear, just like the dream. I'm in the dream. As soon as the dream, the person, whatever, the awakened one, whatever, wakes up, the dream is gone. Do you follow me? I mean,
yeah.
So how can the character wake up within the dream? Because as soon as the dream finishes, the character is gone with the dream.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to wait for the character to wake up.
Yeah. It's nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
What's looked for is nothing to do with you. That's as close as it. Like, I mean, the individual feels that everything's to do with them. Everything's I'm too much this and I'm not enough this. So the person is constantly working on themselves. So to be told it's nothing to do with this thing they appear to be working on is quite unnerving, actually. It's nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It's just that there's just energy, and there's maybe the sense that there isn't this, then there's more, and there's a rejection of that. Then we're all going to die, though. I mean, so that's the good news. The good news is, I mean, the physical body will die, and on the physical death is that it's just. So, what here is the same thing that happened at physical death, except that it can happen before it appeared to happen before the physical body dies. That's all it is. It's the same as death. Like what I'm suggesting here is the exact same as the fear of death. The fear that someone might have of death that they can relate to or not relate to is the same fear as what's being suggested here. It's the exact same, because it's the end of me.
Yeah. And what about other states where they say there's the astral plane, or you leave your body out? And
see, these are all stories to me.
They're stories. Yeah.
Everything, karma, heaven, hell, reincarnation, all of this. These are all the lovely things that the person comes up with in fear of what's their absence. They come up with a lovely story because they're afraid of it. So these are the things they come up with. It's all Peter Pan stuff. That's all it is. And actually, what's looked for, when it's seen what's looked for, which is just this, already what is, it's stunning because it's infinitely more amazing than your idea of it, and the mind's idea of it, and paradoxically just completely ordinarily just this. It's not some fireworky, lovely, heavenly thing or nirvana or any of that. And actually when that's seen, those things are seen as complete nonsense compared to what was actually looked for. Like life as it is just...
But how does that compare to what you said then about death? Like, I assume death, like sleep, is just a nothingness. I mean, what you...
But in nothing, you see what... you see, nothing is everything also.
Right.
This is nothing and everything. But when you feel like the person feels like a something, it's like a 50% alive thing. They're only living in the something, and they can't see the no thing, and they conceptualize no thing as this kind of empty thing. But in actuality, this is no thing. This is nothing appearing as something. It's not two separate. It's the one.
So what about consciousness then? Would you?
Just a part of the individual. That's all. It's
so are you conscious after death? Are you conscious?
No,
now?
there is no consciousness.
So, okay.
No, I mean it's just a part of the individual. Consciousness is. It's an aspect of feeling separate. It's intertwinable with awareness, really. Like, I mean, it's. I feel sometimes the words are used interchangeably almost. They mean the same thing. I'm aware of something, I'm conscious of something, or it's completely irrelevant. It's just an aspect of feeling like a separate person. This sense that you're conscious.
Right.
Yeah.
So you
it's nothing to do with what's looked for whatsoever. It's just that, all that is just that bubble of a me. And the individual holds it up as being this amazing thing, consciousness and awareness. And how can anything continue without consciousness? And it's so arrogant, actually. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, how does it happen at all then?
Nothing happened. This is nothing happened.
Yeah.
We're back to that again.
Exactly. From this point, where else can you go when you're in the loop?
Oh yeah, and as I said,
yeah,
you can't go wrong with this, you see. So when this is shared, it's like some people feel, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going back. Why are you sorry? You haven't done anything. There's nobody here. So all there is what's being said. Like, I mean, if there's something to be said, that's what appears to be happening then. There's nothing wrong. That's it then. You can't go wrong with it. Would you like a cup of tea or anything? Yeah. I have coffee and tea there.
I'll have a coffee, yeah.
I'll have a coffee.
it's too strong. There's hot water there, so.
All right.
Do you have fire to come?